everybody, sorry about that. We apologize for the technical difficulties. I'm just going to quickly start over. My name is Samira Deepam. I am the Customer Success Manager here at Alertus. My role here is to help all of our customers use our system as effectively and optimally as possible based on your specific needs for your campuses or whatever type of industry that you guys have. I do have here with me our implementation specialist, Chris Jameson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
He's going to talk a little bit later on our new UI console, our custom activation features as well. But right now what we're going to do is run through some of our newer features, some of the infrastructure that you guys might have that you might not be utilized, just to help you use the system a little better to meet your emergency notification challenges and your needs. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about simplifying your Alertus system for best use, most efficient use, to avoid any sort of false alarms or anything like that in the wake of the Hawaii incident. We'll talk a little bit about our latest winter release, the software features and updates, how you can best leverage the infrastructure that you have. Then Chris Jameson will talk a little bit about the custom activation, run through that new interface with you guys, and then we'll take some questions. So as I mentioned before, my role is to really help you guys use your system as effectively as possible. So one of the best ways that I can do this is to talk to you a little bit about the actual console, your emergency notification system, and how you use it. Step one for that would be to really just know your system as well as possible. I make a lot of calls to our customers as the customer success manager here, and often I hear people say that they only test every couple of months, or they only test every year, or they don't even use it unless they have an incident. So the number one tip for you guys would be to use your system often, test it, make sure you're assessing it. So one of the ways you can do this is to clean up your preset messages, ensure they're accurate and applicable to your actual emergency communication needs. So turn off features that are not being used actively. The Alertus system allows you guys to individualize user roles and privileges, so you can always turn off certain users' permissions and restrictions or turn some on. So for example, if you have a particular staff member that only needs to see one preset activation, or you only want them to have the permission to send one certain type of alert based on their status or their role, you can ensure they do that. So one of the things that you can do is to go into your preset, and Christopher will talk a little bit about this later, but you can go into your console and customize each particular login for your users, and that way that will decrease the chances of anyone making a mistake. It's also important to make sure that you keep your emergency communications aligned with your actual emergency plans and procedures. So have separate logins for your dispatchers and your administrators if they happen to be different. It can also be helpful to have specific logins for administrators that act as dispatchers in an emergency situation. If your system configurations are reflective of your emergency plan, there will be less room for hesitation, slowdowns, or confusion when sending an alert. Emergency plans and procedures often change over time, so it's important to make sure that your operations center and everything, that you have a set of sequential steps to accomplish an approved procedure within your emergency response plan, and this can be reflected within your Alertus console in your system. Very important is to make sure that the language that you use for your activation names, or even the text within the activations, is consistent and expected. So make sure your naming conventions are clear, descriptive, not confusing. For example, include location, type of incident. So instead of test 1 emergency or test 2, make the name of that activation test shooter lockdown east wing, as specific as possible to avoid any sort of mistakes being made. Also, make sure all of the users of the system understand the naming convention. So it's one thing to make sure that they're universally consistent, but you also want to make sure that you train your operators and your administrators to know what to expect. and then also make them consistent with your actual emergency plan. One of the ways to ensure that everybody is on the same page is to send updates or formally publish changes and post them, make them required readings to make sure everybody knows what the naming conventions are. Also, don't neglect the community that you're trying to reach within your emergency notification plan. So your students, your employees, faculty, visitors, anybody else that you need to understand. It's really important that they don't just receive an alert, but that they know what to do once they receive an alert. So training and as much information and marketing as possible for your actual activations and what it means if they hear, hey, lockdown, if they hear that message or they see it on their desktop screen, do they know what to do? Lastly, always look at your confirmation page before you hit send. If you need to, read it out loud to yourself, even if it sounds silly. It's really important to do that to make sure we don't set off any false alarms. Testing your system is very important. I mentioned this before, that a lot of the people that I speak to are not testing that often. So one of the things we want to do is test a static group, make sure that you do different scenarios. So don't always just do a general emergency. Make sure you do every single one that is corresponding with your emergency plan. So lockdown, active shooter, tornado, earthquake, whatever it is that pertains to your specific campus or community, make sure that you're testing those specific scenarios and deploy observers to see what the reactions are. If you see that everyone's receiving the alert but no one's taking action, or people look like they don't know what to do, then you know that there might be some training necessary required for whoever is receiving these emergency alerts. Also, analyze the system reports. The Alertus console comes with some fantastic reporting with device activations and acknowledgments. So really use that to your benefit, to see how long it took everybody to receive the message, how many people were acknowledging the message. You have both of those options. So you can see how many desktops were hit, and you can also see when someone clicked the acknowledge button on it. And also just make sure, lastly, I can't press this enough, that their actions or reactions are meeting your desired reactions. Do they know where to go for a shelter in place, etc. Also, as I mentioned before, make sure you're training your operators and administrators, not just one time, but continual education is really important. Anytime you make a change within the system or you create a new scenario or emergency plan, you want to make sure that everyone that has access to your system is aware of that. So what we want to do after we're looking at our system is we want to evaluate it and modify it based on what's not working for us. So we can see our reports, we can see right there on the bottom of the screen, you can see how many activations within a certain amount of time, how many people acknowledged it, what our response rate was. So once we see that, we'll know a little bit more about where our gaps are, where our deficiencies are. And that's really important to know. And this is one of my main goals here, is to not sell you on anything else that you don't already have, but to make the most use out of what you're currently paying for within your Alertus system. A lot of times I talk to customers that don't know that we have certain features or aren't utilizing them actively because they might not know exactly how it might best fit their needs. So I know we have a different, some of our customers here might just have software, some might just have hardware, so I'm going to run through some of the things, most of them high level, but I do want to mention here for everybody that has our ENS, our Enhanced Notification Service and Support, this is everything that is included within that. So we have our desktop notification, we have our Alertus mobile app, both the activator and the recipient. So the activator is going to give you the ability to activate any of your preset activations directly from your cell phone. As long as you have access to the server, you don't even have to be within the facility or on campus. Also, it comes with unlimited digital signage overrides. A lot of times I hear people that already have a robust digital signage system, but they're not integrated with Alertus. So that's an important feature to not overlook. With our latest release, we actually have Chromebook notifications now. We're really excited about that, so I'll talk a little bit about that in a couple of slides. Also, our desktop panic button. So this is kind of your one-click, easy way for internal communication for any of your faculty members or your employees to send an alert that they're in distress or there is someone suspicious in the building or anything like that. We also have our Threat Watcher, which is our integrated weather alert system. Like I mentioned, I'm not going to go through every single one in depth because you guys are already customers, but I do want to make sure right here that you see everything that's included with your ENS license. So let me add a little bit about our desktop notifications. Frequently when I talk to people, they're very well aware of our full screen takeover. So I do want to let you know that we also have our quarter or partial screen, as well as our scrolling ticker. So all of those can be configured just as granularly in terms of the duration of the alert, whether it can be dismissed upon acknowledgement. The really cool thing about our pop-up mode or our quarter screen is that you can embed an image or a video in there. So that's really great if not used for external communication to all of the recipients within your community. It can also be used for internal communication to send to each other within public safety to say, hey, we're on the lookout for this person's vandalizing cars, or, you know, this female college student has a stalker, this is what he looks like. This can be sent very easily through those alerts. You can also customize it with your own school logo, change the colors and the templates. So that's definitely something that I would recommend that you guys take advantage of if you're not already doing so. So then, as I mentioned before, we also have our Chromebook notification. There is an entire webinar on this, so I won't go too in depth, but I did want to show you what it looks like here. You'd get a little pop-up on the screen. You'd be able to click on it, and you'd see a full screen of the entire message of what's going on. So that's an added feature. Really gives you the ability to send to a lot more endpoints than you would with our desktop client. We also have our recipient app. So I know a lot of you guys use our activator to send off the system, especially if you're integrated with Rave or Regroup or any of those personal notification systems. When I do talk to our customers, they seem a little less knowledgeable about our recipient app. So I did want to spend some time on that. The recipient app is just a second layer of notification. If you're already sending out texts and emails, they can also receive an alert on their cell phone, just a push notification through the Alertus Recipient App. It really just ensures layered communication. So we make sure that, hey, if they don't get that text message or that email because of cell phone service or whatever it is, perhaps they have Wi-Fi, they can get their push notifications through their Alertus app. And always keep in mind with all of these things that I'm mentioning, we do unified notification, so everything can be integrated with your personal notification message as well. So the same text message that you're sending can be the same type of text that you send to the Alertus Recipient App. So some of the new stuff about the Recipient App. We have updated the interface a little bit. So we updated the colors. There's a tabbed navigation bar on the bottom of the screen. You can also put a title for your organization. So you can see right here that it says Alertus Headquarters. You can provide a logo for the home screen so that it looks a little more legitimate, like it's coming from you guys, from your company or your campus. There's also a contact button that will allow the user to call public safety or 911, whatever you wanted it to do. You could configure that number so that when they're in the app and they're reporting an incident, they can make a phone call as well. One of the newest features that we have, and people really seem to love this, is grouping. So the recipient app or the user can actually subscribe to certain, as you see here, it says South Campus, North Campus, weather, security, and emergency. So when you're activating the Alertus system, you can actually send to a certain group, certain subscription. So people that are subscribed to that group will get that message, and anyone who's not won't. You can also make some mandatory for your users. So you see right here that South Campus and North Campus are locked, and that's because they want to make sure that everybody gets those messages. Okay, so now that I've talked a little bit about the endpoints that you have, I want to quickly refresh everybody on all of the different ways that you can activate the system in case you're not utilizing any of these. So obviously we have the Alertus interface. Then we have our mobile app that will allow you to activate any of the preset activations. What I do want to mention is that within this latest release, we've made our console mobile friendly, so you can actually log into your Alertus console through your Chrome browser or Safari browser, whatever it is, and see a really fully functional console from your cell phone itself. So that allows you to do custom activation directly from your iPad or your cell phone. That's a brand new feature, and that's been extremely beneficial. Prior to this, all we had was preset activation from your Alertus Activator app, and now you have the full functionality of the system directly from your cell phone. Then we also have our desktop activator. As you guys might know or might not know, that is the icon on the bottom of your screen that will allow you up to 20 presets that you can activate any of the ones that you already have within the system. And then we have our hardwired panic button. Again, this isn't a sales webinar, so I'm not trying to sell you on this, but most of our customers do really appreciate the simplicity and ease of this hardwired panic button to kind of tie everything together. And as you can see, it's customizable for your message. So you push any of these, emergency, lockdown, or all clear, and you will activate the entire system. It's foolproof way, password forgetting proof way of making sure you activate everything. So just an overview of what the panic button options are is that, right here you have that cell phone incident report. We have our desktop activator as well. That's our panic form. So I'll show you a little bit about what it looks like within our mobile app. This is one of the panic buttons. These are more for internal communication. So not to be confused with what I was mentioning before, the recipient app has two functions. One of them is to, of course, receive a message or receive an alert. The second part of that is actually to send an incident report. So with that, the user can report an incident. They'll have an incident type drop-down menu that they'll be able to look at. It will say medical emergency, request for help, suspicious person. You can see right here that there's a drop-down for the incident type, and that's where we'll see that. There will be a pre-populated message once they choose their type, so they can hit send. Their GPS coordinates will pop up, and you'll receive a message with their profile picture, their name, their phone number, whatever information that they've filled out here, and you'll be able to track their location. So this is something that I really want to make sure everybody understands because out of most of the customers that I speak to, they are using the recipient app to send messages and they're using the activator app, but they're not taking full advantage of the incident report app, which is pretty important. Within this as well, you can upload up to 3 photos. So say somebody does see somebody on campus or they see a fight breaking out or something like that, something suspicious, they would be able to upload that photo and send it directly to you. So you as security, public safety administrator, whatever your role is, whoever's in charge of the emergency procedures or the reacting to an emergency would get a full screen pop-up on a desktop or even a message to their cell phone with the coordinates of this person as well as what's going on. So then also for internal communication, we have our software panic form, or AKA our desktop panic button. So this is something that you can use for pretty much a help request. So if somebody's having an emergency or, say you're in the higher education space and you have an irate student that comes into your office, or someone that just maybe has a heart disease or a history of a heart attack or something like that, or a hazmat situation, they would be able to request emergency assistance. So What's really cool about this is that the dialog box will be pre-populated with all of their information. They can choose an incident type if they want to. They don't have to. That's not a mandatory field. They can type in a description. What I really love about this feature is that when they send the alert, our system is so granular that however you want that message to be received by you in order to respond to the emergency is up to you. So you can have that send as a text message to your phone if you're integrated with a personal notification system. You can have it send as a full screen desktop takeover if you wanted to, or you could have it do all of those things, a mobile app notification, whatever you wanted to do to receive this message so that you can respond quickly to that emergency, you can make that happen. Again, all of these features that I'm talking about are included with the software and support yearly contract that most of you probably already have. So what I do want to mention, and I think this is really important, and this is a big part of my role, is to make people understand that we don't, it's not an upsell. We really want you to understand that what our specialty is to leverage the infrastructure that you already have in-house. So, you already have desktops, you already have VoIP phones, perhaps you have a fire alarm panel with speakers, everybody's got a cell phone. Let's use these as best as we can. The Alertus system allows you to put all of these things together so you can reach as many people as possible in an emergency. So our VoIP phone notification, if people are not familiar, is a way to send an audible message through VoIP phones. We have a Avaya and Cisco VoIP notification right now. We also have some hardware solutions for other systems like Mitel and ShoreTel. What's really cool about our Cisco VoIP phone notification is that the message you're sending out will actually take over the screen, so there's a visual component as well as an audible component, and it also includes call monitoring. So if someone dials 911, you'll receive that in your Alertus reports. You'll be able to get a notification that somebody, in an office down the hall called 911. You can also activate your Alertus system directly from your Cisco phones or your Avaya phones, which is pretty fantastic. So you can have a certain code for lockdown, emergency, active shooter. You can also have a passcode, so you can ensure that people don't accidentally activate the system. So I would recommend that anybody that already has a pretty robust VoIP phone system talks to their account managers or contacts me to find out a little bit more about it. It is one of our most cost-effective ways of sending out unified notification throughout a facility. And then we also have our text-to-speech module. The reason that I bring this up is because a lot of our customers have alert beacons but don't necessarily know that there is a voice component that we can add to that with our text-to-speech module. So we have our own speakers that attach to our alert beacons, connect to our alert beacons to basically convert the message you're sending out over the alert beacons to voice. We also use the same text-to-speech module to integrate with PA systems that you might already have. So like I mentioned before, it's really important for us to not give you the big sell and say, hey, buy everything that we have, get rid of all of your investments. We really want to leverage what you already have. So if you have a PA system that we can integrate with, we can use that, connect an alert beacon to it, use our text-to-speech module to shoot voice messages over your actual systems that already have audio or voice capability. So that could include your PA system, but it could also include some of your other phone systems, like I mentioned before, your Mitel, your ShoreTel, and it also includes your fire alarm panel interface if it has voice capability. So off the top of my head, we do Simplex Grinnell 4100. We do a couple of other wells, Gamewell as well. So that is something that is also pretty cost effective in terms of getting voice capability throughout your buildings or your campus or whatever it may be. Lastly, I did want to mention one of the products that we have that I think has not as much popularity because I think it's a little bit unsung, but it's very important. We have an IP relay that we do sell. One of the products that we have, which is the Alert Beacon, has auxiliary outputs and inputs. So what we can offer is an IP relay that can connect to systems like your access control system, or any other systems that you have that might have contact closure that can activate the Alertus system. So for example, if you have right here, it says a water leak that triggers a corresponding emergency alert, we can attach our IP relay to that, which connects the Alertus system, so that if you have a laboratory that needs to be monitored, or even your door access control system, you can actually integrate with the Alertus system, so that you trigger the Alertus system when something on that IP relay is triggered. So that's pretty much all I have. I'm going to pass it on to Chris now for his portion to talk about our new interface and the custom activation.
Thanks, Samira. I appreciate it. Just like she was saying, we're going to go ahead and go through some of the new features and functionalities that we have. You'll also notice that if you haven't already done so, the new UI has the changes to the front, and this is from the 2018 release. So you'll kind of see some of the new features and functionalities here. We're going to go ahead and take a look at what's going on within the custom activation. It hasn't changed in this location. So as you log in, obviously you can go right to the main landing page, and then we'll click over to the custom activation portion. Right here, you'll notice in the custom activation steps, you're still able to kind of select your preset here, or you can select custom. You can change the text input as well. You'll see the duration that you want to put in the message, and then you also select priority levels, from 1 being the highest of priorities to 5 being the lowest of priorities. You'll also be able to kind of determine which of the hierarchies are done, either already in your presets, but here you'll be able to kind of make that configuration on the fly. So just so you understand, should you put in a activation that says priority level 3, there's a weather alert going on, and then at some point throughout the day, somebody puts on or pulls a fire alarm. That's obviously a priority level 1, and that'll automatically supersede that initial alert. The next thing that you'll see here in the activation page is you'll be able to see all the different alert services, and then be able to change the configurations within those alert services. So on this custom activation page, and I'm kind of just pulling specific boxes on it, and we'll go through the entire UI here in a second, is that you'll kind of see that each of those alert services now can be configured during the custom activation. And we'll see a pop-up here in just a second. Underneath, you'll see the alert beacon. On top, you'll see the email. From the alert service, basically adding the alert service or the changes and whatnot, you can see that some of the configurations underneath will be able to be configured on the fly. So if you want to change the peripheral settings, if you want to change what type of LED is being displayed or the colors being displayed, all of that is awarded to you on the fly as you go. The other thing that you'll see up here in the front, and we'll go through this activation, is the email setting. So I can change the from address, the to address, who I want to BCC or CC on the message. I can change the subject line as well so people can understand. This is perfect for, let's say, like an IT scenario where you're connected within house on a network and you say, hey, the email is down. I'll send a custom activation within just the basically just within a pop-up or a desktop alert. You can come in here, set up the alert as a Alertus desktop, create, if you want it just to be a ticker or whatnot, and say, hey, email is going to be down for the next 30 minutes. That way 30 people don't try to create tickets and come by the IT office. So it's a multiple functionality that you can utilize here within having this kind of configuration. The next thing that you kind of see here is the endpoint. So being able to select groups or predefined groups kind of delineates where you're going to be able to send that action. And this is great when it comes to, like again, if you want to do the IT, hey, the email's down, or if you want to hit up all the facilities around wherever our alert services are set up. So we'll go through real quickly and see some of those changes here in a second. The other thing, and here's something that we want to really emphasize, is the confirmation page. And obviously this is something that's new, that's coming up all the time in media and whatnot, is kind of making sure that you're setting out the correct message. And this kind of comes in, as Samira was saying, in training and making sure that everyone's executing the plan or the emergency plan that's set in place. So here on the confirmation page, not only are you seeing where the alert is going, the text that's being sent, how it's being executed, but also who's going to be receiving it and how many devices prior to that are already online and ready to receive this message. And this is a fantastic way to kind of give yourself that last line of check and balances to ensure that, hey, this message that I'm sending out, it's prepared and ready to go, and it is sending the message that I need to be sent out with the message and the value of the message that's there. The next thing that you kind of see too, which is great, is that our software development team has really upgraded the UI to make it more comfortable for smartphones and tablets. So not only are you able to basically take that same training that you took on the regular, the software UI where you log in and you go to the URL, you can use that same activation method on your phone, so you don't have to kind of relearn the new steps. It's the same seamless integration or the same seamless deployment of any alert. So, So here you'll be able to see that all the custom activations are right here, from emergency activation, preset, and whatnot. It's the simple kind of menu tab here should you want to go to configurations or anything else. But it's quickly, when you learn how to do a composed message or a custom activation, it's going to be the same look and feel, either on a tablet or smartphone. The last thing is kind of configuring the settings. Right here, you have to kind of ensure that you have things set up for a priority method when it comes to custom activations. One thing that Alertus is very good at is configurations and making bridges between gaps. The other thing, though, is that means that you have to be mindful of all the different configuration steps that are necessary in your system. So one thing to kind of do there is to go into the configuration settings tab. You'll see it here, and you'll see the list that populates down on the left-hand side. From that list, you'll be able to see the settings. When you come to the landing page here in the settings, you'll be able to see all the different default settings that are available to you. In that, majority of these will not be selected, but one of the ones that should be selected should you want to be able to have custom activations is this show priority options, right, where you're changing hierarchies, and is it the highest of hierarchies or is it the lowest? The next thing that's important too is understanding which users need to have access to the system and making configurations, and which users should already just be able to do presets, or emergency activations or whatnot. So in your emergency management plan, this is a great place to kind of understand who does what, when, where, and why. And so what we've done here is that we've kind of created two steps. We've created the ability to log into the system. We've the ability to log into the system, but then also what they can see while they're in the system. So you see that admin is always a super user. They can do everything under the sun in the system. We have a preset user, which means that they'll only be able to go to the preset page, and the UI will be constricted down to really only being able to do preset activations. And then we have a standard user that's default in there, which you can kind of really configure and change. Now you can add as many users as you want, and you can configure each person's role. So should you have 10, 15, 20 different dispatchers or more, you can decide who does what, when, where, and why. And that's why this configuration here and understanding these settings are so fantastic. Now what we'll do really quickly is we'll go into the actual activation, and we'll see what the console looks like. So pardon my change here. We'll go right into the custom activation page. And like I said, you'll be able to kind of come in here and choose the presets that you may have. Right now, let's just say, since we're in Maryland, well, there's a tornado warning. If I want to just say that this is a drill, I can go in here and I can say, hey, this, if I could type, is super important, is a drill. Do not be alarmed. And then it's a tornado warning. Now again, this is a custom activation, so I can change everything from the duration, how long it's going to be on there. But this is where it's really heavy, and this is where things can get really exciting, is changing all the alert services. So I can go in here and I can change the Alertus training, I can change cable TV override, desktop alerts, or whatnot. But what's great about this is when I go into the alert beacon, here I can see, all right, the tone is on max. That's not what I want since it's only a test. It's just a drill. We'll put it on silent. We can change that on both of the alerts. I can change the way the glow is too. So if I don't want too many people to be alarmed, maybe they're in classes, maybe they're at the office, maybe they're at their desk, I can change all those things there. I'll leave it on since we're in the demo. And then also what's really nice is all these peripherals that we see here. So we can activate LED marquees, anything that's connected, activate other devices that are peripherals there. We can enable the door lock control. So should I want to lock everybody down and make sure that they're staying at their desk? Obviously I can do that here as well. The last thing here is that we're selecting the delivery methods of the endpoint. So we're kind of really selecting the groups here. And we have a bunch set up already inside, but obviously the fastest way when it comes to doing the tornado is just selecting all. The other thing that's important is that we still have that map interface. So you can kind of get in here and see everywhere that you want it to go, and it's pretty easy in the aspect of understanding where all your devices are set up. So I'll close that down. And then here's the most important, is the confirmation page, right? Here I'm able to see how many devices are set up, how many desktops are set up, cable TV overrides, alert mobiles. Now, should I have selected more alert services to add, all of those alert services would be here. And I have one more final check to make sure that my beacon is set up the way I want it to be set up, which is, again, fantastic, because you can't go wrong. You want to what's the cliche? You want to measure twice and cut once. And essentially that's the same thing when it comes to emergency dispatching, is that you want to make sure that it's the way you want it before you execute. And then we hit send. The execution will go out, and you'll see it pop up really quickly. Uh-oh. There we go. We acknowledge it, and we closed it. So let me just go quickly back to the presentation. You guys can see it, and I'll pass back over to Liz here quickly. Her chance to present.
Great. So we have now concluded the presentation part of our webinar this afternoon, and we are now going to enter into our Q&A, our question and answer session. You can submit your questions via the chat box or question box. If we don't get to your question during this session, a representative will reach out to you to answer your question directly. And in addition, a recording of this webinar will be shared with you after the session tomorrow. So be sure to check your inbox then. So now we will begin with our questions. So our first question is, where do you configure the recipient app?
Right, so thanks, Liz. That's actually pretty easy. All you need to do is send an email or call your account manager or call me, or actually support at alertus.com. Tell them you want to get set up with the mobile app, and it's usually about 24 hours, and they will pass it on to implementations, and they'll set that up for you.
So just to quickly kind of cover up how the Alertus Recipient App is taken care of, should you to want to get this up and you don't have it set up right now, if you're still in the implementation process, please make note that with your implementation lead that you want to set up the Alertus app. We'll send you out a template of questions to make sure that it's configured the way you'd like it to be. If you've already completed the implementation process and you've had your system configured and you've now just learned about the Alertus app, then please send an email to support@alertus.com, and then they'll send you that template, and they will also set up the recipient app for you and make sure that it's configured as well. So in both instances, we'll make sure that the recipient app is set up either in the implementation process if you're currently in it, or post-implementation, please send a notice to support@alertus.com.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. So the next question is about the desktop panic button, help button. Where does the information get pulled from? Is it from the user's IP address, or does the individual complete this information when they first access? So the answer to that is that it's individualized per user, so that's going to be information that is already plugged into that. For when they send the panic alert, it will have their name, their location, Office 402, John Smith, here's my phone number. So that's why we highly, highly recommend that dialog box is pre-filled, and we make a few of those mandatory so that when someone does hit the panic button, there is no information missing from it, and there is an alert received with their information. So we have, we apologize for the noise. We set up the activation just to demonstrate to you guys how well it works and how loud the alert beacon is. When Chris was showing you the custom activation, I think we We set it off as we're in the demo room right now, but that's actually fine. It's helpful because that's what the stream is for, is to show you what the system looks and sounds like, so we know it works. So our next question is, does the app auto update, or is there a download required?
So in order to get the app, you do have to go into the either App Store, when that's Android App Store, or the Apple App Store. And either way, those are automatically up to date. Should you want to get the updated version, it will send you the same type of update notification like you would for your bank app, or any other type of like social media app or whatnot. So you'll see a notification where you could update it. You can either deny that and keep the current version, or you can upgrade from that point on.
Okay, the question is, I didn't get the use of the separate Alertus module / controller. Can you talk about it a little bit more? Oh, the IP relay. Chris, would you like to talk a little bit more about the IP relay and how it might work with a door access system?
Sure, not a problem. So we use the IP relay essentially to kind of work with magnetized locks. Obviously, if you have already an access control system, that would be something that we'd have to look at the vendor for specifically. But in most cases, should the lock be electrified, we can send through a closed signal the ability to either lock the door or open the door. Now, again, we have to kind of monitor, what the fire protocols in place are. So in the event, let's say like in access control, they have like a VIP shutdown on a door, or they have like a automatic lockdown on a tailgating situation or whatnot. Those type of custom event triggers can be utilized in an IP relay setting. However, these things should be set up in your implementation configuration call, or with the support at alertus.com. If you want more information about that, please feel free to reach out to us at implementations@alertus.com, and I would definitely send you some more information or literature about the IP relay, or setting it up and configuring it with magnetized locks in your facility. Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, it looks like that's the last question then. Oh, yep.
Yeah, perfect.
Great. All right. So, like we said, if you have any additional questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to us directly. You can reach out to us at marketing@alertus.com. You can also reach out to Samira directly with any questions. So, everybody, my goal here is to talk to all of our customers about twice a year. In between, you'll get emails from me and newsletters as well with different tips and tricks and new features every newsletter that I send you. So if you don't have my contact information already, you will very shortly as I reach out to you via phone call or email. Great. And we have a list of available resources as well in front of you, as you can see, anything from MNS codes and mandates to Alertus in the news, our customer case studies, and of course our webinar series, where we will be showcasing our upcoming webinars as in the weeks ahead. So other than that, we thank you very much for your patience this afternoon. We had a little bit of a technical delay, but we are sure to be back in next week for next week's webinar, as well as the end of February. So stay tuned. And thank you for this. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.